I now would like to give the floor to the Honorable Representative of South Africa, Mrs. Modiegi Sethusha. She is the Executive Manager of the Planning, Coordination, Intervention and Support at the Department of Cooperation and Governance. Mrs. Representative from South Africa, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, Country Representatives, Disaster Risk Reduction Partners, distinguished delegates. On behalf of South Africa, my delegation wishes to express our deepest appreciation for being afforded the opportunity to present the strategic status report on the implementation of disaster risk reduction policy in our country. South Africa has come a long way in the implementation of legislative framework governing disaster risk reduction in the country while contributing to the regional and global agenda. In line with the international trends and our national objectives of effective management of resources, South Africa's disaster management policy and legislation underscores the importance of preventing human, economic, infrastructure, property losses, and avoiding environmental degradation. Preparedness measures for more efficient rescue operation will always remain necessary, but there is a common agreement that much greater attention should be directed to the introduction of preventive strategies aimed at saving lives and protecting assets. Scarce resources are often diverted for disaster relief at the expense of growth and developmental opportunities, resulting in the worsening of the plight of poverty-stricken communities. In line with our government's priorities, disaster management approach of a capable state pays specific attention to the pressing needs of poor communities in relation to both natural and human-induced disasters. Chairperson, the South African National Development Plan 2030 highlights the element of a decent standard of living for human beings as follows, I quote, open quotes, "They need adequate nutrition, they need transport to get to work, and they desire safe communities and clean neighborhoods. These elements require action either from individuals, government, communities, or private sector," close quotes. One of the critical actions to achieve this has been identified as implementing interventions to ensure environmental sustainability and resilience to future disasters. South Africa has to adapt to the expected impacts of climate change, global warming, and energy efficiency, and in the same breath, build the social, economic, and physical resilience of our communities. Chairperson, the South African government proudly hosted a successful COP17 event in Durban during November 2011. Amongst the many forums to discuss issues of climate change mitigation and adaptation, disaster risk reduction was also one of the topics that received particular attention. Parliamentarians from around the world called the parties to the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change to prioritize disaster risk reduction and capacity building as a cross-cutting issues and to give them utmost attention. One of the decisions of the Interparliamentary Union was reiterating their commitment to assist their respective governments in implementing existing and future climate change and disaster risk agreements. To this end, Chairperson, I can confirm that stakeholders in the country have come to the realization that no amount of effective service delivery, poverty reduction, and sustainable development can be realized without the parallel implementation of the disaster reduction agenda. This is evident in the manner in which the function is taking a central position in the discussions and programming with various sectors, levels of government, and other disciplines. Like many other developing countries, South Africa and its neighbors face increasing levels of disaster risk. It is exposed to a wide range of hazards, including droughts, fires, cyclones, and severe storms that can trigger widespread hardships and devastation. The negative impact of these disasters leave the country and its neighbors to deal with issues such as loss of life, damage to infrastructure and the environment, disrupted livelihoods, schooling and social services, which leads to the increased need for humanitarian assistance. We are confident as a country, Chairperson, that the risk reduction priorities will be realized and that our programs will be in sync with the future framework post the Hayago Framework Action 2005 to 2015 by bringing disaster risk reduction within the mainstream of service delivery, poverty reduction, and sustainable development discourses, that is policy and practices. Chairperson, my government would like to express its continued support to the global platform as a multi-stakeholder mechanism to get role players together, where, amongst others, best practices can be shared and awareness raised, particularly in the importance of effectively implementing the Hayago Framework for Action. We fully support the need to promote partnerships and international cooperation in reducing disaster risk, and particularly the building of capacity in those developing countries that needs to be assisted to better mitigate and manage disaster risks. Chairperson, honorable ministers, excellencies, distinguished guests, I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much to South Africa for your contribution, for your presentation.